peace, family. It's your brother Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome to the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. Today is day 312. Day 312 of Israel's war on Gaza. This, of course, is a War on Gaza report. And I want to thank you all for watching it. This is not something that I enjoy doing, but it's something that we do every single day here on the channel. To keep you updated on Israel's war on Gaza. As I always say, this is not a war in Gaza. This is not a war about Gaza. This is not a war over Gaza. This is a war. I'm sorry. This is a war on Gaza, meaning that this is an imperial genocidal war prosecuted against the Palestinian people, specifically the people of the Gaza Strip, and it violates international law. It violates human rights conventions. It violates basic decency. And it is something that we have to keep track of because corporate media will not tell you the truth. Mainstream outlets will not give you the full information. And so what we do here on the channel every day is give you that information so that you can do what you need to do, so that we can all do what we need to do to stop it, to produce freedom and justice in the region. That only happens with a liberated Palestine. I begin the War on Gaza report with the same thing I always begin it with, and that is the numbers. At least 39,929 people have been killed, and 92,940 people have been wounded in Israel's war on Gaza. Again, 39,929. That means that we are dangerously close, and sadly, inevitably close to hitting the 40,000 mark of people of Palestinians who have been killed in Gaza since October 7th. It's important to note that that 40,000 number that we're approaching does not include people who have been wounded. It does not include people who have been, it does not include people who have been killed under the rubble. The 92,224 wounded does not include people who have been wounded but haven't reported to the hospital. So an even larger slice of the Palestinian people have been harmed, have been made casualties. The casualty numbers include killing and injuries than the official numbers suggest. But just based on the official numbers from the Gazan Health Ministry, we're looking at 40,000 people. If we go with the people who are already under the rubble, we probably have another 10 to 15,000 to add to that list. So please understand how grave a situation this is since October 7th, when 1,139 people were killed in Israel during the Hamas-led attacks, and also 200 people were taken captive. So we're talking about an Israeli response that is ongoing and that has been so wildly and grossly disproportionate that it boggles the imagination, it boggles the mind. This is bizarre. But let's keep going. Palestinian UN envoy Riyad Mansour tells an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council that, quote, Israel does not care about your condemnations in response to the mass killing of civilians and the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. This is an important point that we can't stress enough. It is not enough to simply rebuke what is happening in Israel. It is not enough to speak out and get a letter of condemnation, a strongly worded letter. It is not even enough to get the kind of formal censure that you see in places like the US Congress. Condemnation only matters if you're going to respond to the condemnation in a reparative way or just in a different way. In other words, Israel has openly said they don't care what the UN says. They have openly said they don't care what Amnesty International says. They have openly claimed that they don't care what Human Rights Watch says. Now, they frame it, to be fair and intellectually honest, they frame it as we don't trust them. They're anti-Semitic. They have it out for us, and therefore we don't have to listen. But ultimately, Israel has basically deemed any organization that is critical of its statecraft as problematic as such, almost by virtue of the fact that they have the critique. because they're saying if you're critiquing the sole Jewish state, then you're probably anti-Semitic. And so, by that logic, there is no space for critique. There is no room for pushback, even principled, loving pushback, as some people may argue. Like, for example, the United States right now, Joe Biden, there's no bigger Zionist than Joe Biden. And even he behind the scenes is saying, hey, wait a minute, maybe y'all going too far. So none of it matters. None of it matters if it's just condemnation. And the reason why this is relevant is not just to speak to the character of the government, because Israeli government is I mean, all governments are amoral, they're indifferent, they're not moved by feeling, they're moved by interests. So rather than condemning Israel, if I understand Riyad Mansour's point, at least the subtext of it, it's look, stop condemning them or promising or threatening to condemn them. Stop giving them money. Stop giving them aid. Stop giving them guns. Stop giving them protection at the diplomatic and international legal levels. If you do that, then you get something different. But what's happening right now is unacceptable. And please don't think that when you say Netanyahu, we're mad at you, that matters. Anyway, the UN's humanitarian agency tells the Security Council that the recent attack on a school inside of Gaza City, which killed at least 100 people, was, quote, far from an isolated incident. And Israeli strikes on schools are, quote, occurring with increasing frequency. This is true. You know, one of the great challenges of reporting this is that people don't fully appreciate just how indiscriminate Israel's response has been. It's not just disproportionate, it's also indiscriminate. But when you push further, you say, well, maybe it's not so indiscriminate. If the goal is ethnic cleansing, if the goal is complete genocide, then maybe it's not indiscriminate. Maybe everybody's the target. That's an even scarier proposition, y'all. But schools have been, I mean, in the last month, there was a moment in the Nusrat region, there's a moment in Gaza City, there's a moment even in Khan Yunis where you're seeing school after school bombed, even schools that are only there to be a refuge and a shelter for people who are displaced. And of course, most of Palestine is displaced. Most of Gaza is displaced. Even since October 7th, most of the people since October 7th who had homes or had homes rebuilt from Protective Edge or Cast Lead or what other wars, so-called wars, even when the stuff was rebuilt, got destroyed again. So schools were a place where people could shelter safely, where they wouldn't be hit. They hit them anyway. Schools were a place they said, well, no one's in there, and you know, we're going to protect the school until this war is over, because hopefully it's over soon. That's the kind of logic people had. And Israel has shown no care in protecting those schools, just like the museums, just like the masajid. All of it has been not protected, and um, that is dangerous. But anyway, Israel's military orders Palestinians to immediately leave more areas of Khan Yunis as it prepares to, quote, act forcefully. This becomes, again, another sort of propaganda campaign where it looks as if Israel is being the moral army, where they are demonstrating restraint, and purity of arms, to use the old school terms. The truth is, one, the evacuation orders are often misleading. They're confusing. The evacuation orders often don't come with a legitimate plan B, because they often are attacking the exit route. They're often bombing the humanitarian corridors. They're often preventing people from leaving safely. So, and they rarely are offering sort of protection on the way out of these areas. So, not that I'm saying you should want it, but you should at least have the option. So, the evacuation order itself is often a pretext for what's about to happen, or cover for what's about to happen. But beyond that, they say they're going to act more forcefully. What the hell does that mean at this juncture in history? They're going to act, not more, I'm sorry, it didn't say more forcefully, it said act forcefully. We've seen what forceful looks like. What does it mean now in the context of Khan Yunis, which, by the way, is in the southern part of Gaza? What does that mean? Who else has to die for this to stop? That's the question we got to ask ourselves. Anyway, I think the answer is easy, because the U.S. approved more than $20 billion in new weapon sales to Israel, despite calls to stop arms deliveries amid amid the huge Palestinian civilization death toll due to Israel's war on Gaza. So again, y'all, the United States, you can condemn all you want, you can talk all you want, but at the end of the day, if you're still giving up that bread, $20 billion, none of this matters. As the great Gil Scott Heron said, everybody love peace. Problem is, you can't make no money off of it. Anyway, family, that is the War on Gaza report. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And hit the join button if you're so inclined. You can also, if you want to support us, you can go straight to Cash App. You can go to Venmo. You can go to PayPal. You can go to Zelle. And you can drop us a donation. $1 is great. $1 million is great. Anything in the middle is great. We're grateful for your support. We love you. We'll see you later. Peace.